All right, so let's think about this for a second. When you've got a system churning through millions, maybe even billions of transactions, how on earth do you manage change? How do you go in and tweak a really critical part of that system without, well, blowing the whole thing up? That's exactly what we're going to dive into today. We're going to follow the entire life cycle of a super important piece of SAP billing, the billable item class.
So, first things first, what even is a billable item class? The best way to think about it is like it's the DNA for all your billing data. Seriously, it's the technical blueprint that tells the system exactly how to structure and store every piece of information. We're talking everything from the database tables right down to the individual fields. It is absolutely foundational to the whole shebang.
So here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to follow this class on its entire governance journey. We'll kick off with what a bit class is, then walk through its three main stages: in processing, then transportable, and finally released as productive. And to wrap it all up, we'll see how you manage changes once it's already out in the wild.
Okay, so at the very heart of this whole life cycle are these three stages. Think of them as levels of maturity. Each one gives you a different level of control. We start in the design and build phase, then move on to review and test, and finally, we get to the live and governed state.
All right, let's jump right into stage one, in processing. You got to think of this as the sandbox, the creative design studio. The moment you create a new billable item class, boom, the system puts it in this state automatically. And the name of the game here is maximum flexibility. And what's cool is that this isn't some abstract concept. You can see it right there in the system interface. See that configuration status column? Yep, classes like TCO1 and SCC1 are flagged as in processing. For any developer looking at this, it's an immediate signal. Hey, this one's still being worked on. It's not finished yet.
The rules at this stage, they're super simple, and honestly, pretty liberating for a developer. You have total freedom. Go wild. Add components, remove components, change fields, experiment with different tables, do whatever you want. But, and this is the big catch, you cannot transport it anywhere. It's stuck, totally isolated in this one system.
So why does that isolation matter so much? Well, because it gives you a completely risk-free playground. You can build things, you can break things, you can tear it all down and start over. And there is zero fear of wrecking your test environment or, heaven forbid, the production system. It's the freedom you need to really nail the design before it goes anywhere else.
All right, so once we're happy with the initial design, it's time to move on. Let's talk about stage two, transportable. The name kind of gives it away, right? Our design is getting solid, and we're saying, okay, this is mature enough to share with the testing team.
And if we look back at our system screen, you can see a couple of examples here. See how TDAT and TTL have graduated? They're now marked as transportable. That's the system's way of telling everyone that these have moved past that initial sandbox phase and are ready to be sent over to a QA system for some real integration testing. So what's the actual difference between in processing and transportable? It's actually incredibly simple, but it's a huge deal. You still have all the same freedom to make changes, you can still add, delete, and modify to your heart's content. The one and only thing that's different is that the system now lets you transport it. The lock is off.
And don't worry, there's a safety net built right in. The system is smart enough to make sure that only complete and consistent configurations can actually be transported. It's a fantastic little check that stops you from accidentally shipping something that's broken or half-baked over to your poor testing team.
And this is why this stage is such a critical link in the whole development process. It's the bridge that lets your mature but not quite final configuration get into a quality assurance system. That's where it can be tested against all the other parts of the application to see how they play together, long before it gets anywhere near production. Which, of course, brings us to the final, and you could argue the most important stage of all, released as productive. I mean, the subtitle here really says it all: live and lock down. At this point, it's all about protecting the live system where the real business happened.
Hopping back to our system view, you can see SC01 is released as productive. This isn't just a suggestion. It's a clear, bright, flashing sign that says this thing is live. It's handling real business data. And because of that, the rules of the game have completely changed. Now, it's all about protecting that data.
So, the rules get way stricter now. You can still transport it, that's fine, but, and this is huge, destructive changes are now off limits. You can't just delete a field or remove a component anymore. Why? Because live data depends on it. From now on, you can only make compatible changes, things you add on top.
And another really key thing happens. The system starts keeping a detailed history of every single version, giving you a perfect audit trail. Now, it's really important to understand that locked down doesn't mean it's frozen in amber forever. The system is built to evolve. You can absolutely still make those additive changes we talked about. You can add new interface components, you can add new fields, new tables, new indexes. You can enhance it, you just can't break what's already there.
And really, this is the whole point of this entire governance model. This productive status is like a guardian, standing watch over your live data. By stopping anyone from making destructive changes, it prevents a catastrophe. You know, like accidentally deleting a field that contains data for millions of customer transactions. It keeps that structure stable.
Okay, so this brings up a pretty obvious question, right? If this thing is productive and locked down, how in the world do you safely make one of those allowed changes? Well, that's where another kind of parallel system comes into play, and it's all about managing active versions.
This diagram here does a great job of showing how it works. Let's say you need to change a live active class. The system is smart. It won't let you touch the active one directly. No way. Instead, it creates a copy, a modified working version. You do all your work on that safe copy. Then, and only when you're 100% ready, you hit activate, and your new version safely replaces the old one.
So just to break it down simply, a class that's never been live is new. The one the production system is actually using right now is active. And that safe work-in-progress copy we just talked about, that's your modified version. This whole setup is designed to make sure your ongoing work never ever messes with the live system until you give the final okay.
And if you remember one thing about this versioning system, make it this. There can only ever be one active version at any given time. Just one. This gets rid of any confusion. The system always knows exactly which blueprint to follow, which guarantees that everything stays consistent and predictable.
So when you take a step back and look at the whole picture, you can really see the elegant philosophy behind this design. You've got these three configuration statuses and this versioning system all working together to strike a perfect balance. It gives you all the flexibility in the world when you're just starting out, and then it provides rock-solid stability and control when you're live in production. It's the best of both worlds.
It really is a powerful model, one that intentionally shifts from wide-open creative freedom to disciplined, careful control as the configuration gets more mature. So I guess the question I'll leave you with is this. Now that you understand this very deliberate, step-by-step governance model, how might that change the way you think about and approach your own system configurations?